Happy New Year! I forgot to get myself a drink before I started filming this. Be right back. Much better. Shout out to everybody doing Dry January. Really proud of you. Keep doing what you're doing. I am not going to be doing that. Today, I'm going to be reacting to the New Year's resolutions that I set myself at the beginning of 2017. Oh, and I'm also going to be making new resolutions while I watch this because who doesn't love failure 2 years in a row?
Happy New Year! At last, 2016 is officially behind us. Welcome to 2017!
And what a shit show it was.
Cheers! What are my reading resolutions for 2017? And I have 6. But I also have one overall resolution, which is to read more diversely. When I was first looking at how to tackle the problem of diversity in my reading, I was a little bit hesitant about whether to do specific diversity challenges because I didn't like the idea of turning it into a game. But ultimately I decided I think if it's something that helps you make more conscious choices about your reading, it can only be a good thing.
Good point, 2017 Emma.
So that is my reasoning for these first 2 goals. My resolution number 1 is that I'm going to do the Book Riot Read Harder challenge. I will link all the information below, but basically it's a challenge. I think of 52 goals. I'll have to double check that. And the goal is to just get you thinking more about what you're reading.
Okay, so it definitely doesn't have 52 challenges. I think it has like 20 something, and I didn't finish it, but I did okay. I should have brought my notebook where I write everything down before I sat down. Emma, be better prepared. New Year's resolution number 1 for 2018. Be better prepared before you start filming. I'm going to go and get that notebook and see how well I did. So there are 24 challenges in the Read Harder challenge, and I ticked off 16 of those. 16 out of 24, so that is 3/4 of the challenge I finished. It's not quite all of them, like I set to do, but it's not too bad, because some of those challenges were really hard. I'm not going to be repeating this New Year's resolution. I'm not actually going to be doing any challenges like that this year. I do think they're really great things, and I hope to come back to one in the future. But I really want to make my reading this year more about rediscovering my actual love for reading, sitting down and maybe spending a long time on one book and really engaging with those characters and falling in love with the world. Because a lot of the books I read this year, I've already forgotten what they're about because I just went through them so quickly. Stop rambling, Emma. The point of that was, no, I did not finish that New Year's resolution, but I did okay with it. And while I'm not going to repeat that challenge for the reasons that I just rambled about, I would like to keep trying to push myself outside my comfort zone.
And so, very related to that is resolution number 2, which is I'm going to do the Diversity Bingo 2017. So again, it's really the aim is to get me to seeking out books more actively and consciously.
Okay, again, I didn't finish that challenge, but let's see, I think I did okay on it. I'm also not sure how to score this because I counted each book for only one category, even if it fit multiple categories. So I ticked off 20 unique categories here. But some of the books I read would have actually ticked off some of the other categories as well. And also I read multiple books from some of the categories. But 20 out of 36 is essentially my score. So that's not great. That's a little bit under 2/3 of the challenge. But I did, again, really, really enjoy the books I did read from that. So that's 2 fails so far, technically, but in both cases, 2 great lessons learned. So it's not really a fail at all, is it? Whew, that got deep and beautiful.
My resolution number 3 is I'm going to read more own voices books. So I'm going to do that in general, but also a particular thing I thought I could try is whenever a book becomes very popular that's about somebody from a marginalised group, but not written by somebody from that marginalised group, I'm going to instead look for an own voices version.
I don't think that I actively remembered I had talked about that resolution, because listening to it right then I was like, oh, that's a good idea, and I definitely didn't actively seek out own voices versions of popular books. But I do definitely think I read a lot more own voices books this year than previous years. I didn't keep any kind of statistics on it, which I probably should have. So maybe I'll try and keep some stats on it this coming year. But I would say overall, yes, I did engage with a lot more own voices books this year, and I found it a really enriching and rewarding and informative experience.
My resolution number 4 is that I'm not going to set a Goodreads reading goal, because this year I don't want to read so many books. My resolution is to read more slowly. Earlier last year, I did the Slowathon, which I really, really enjoyed. I've always been a speed reader, so this year my resolution is just to slow down and take more time and read more actively, maybe read out loud.
I failed this one spectacularly. In 2016, I read 103 books, and this resolution was to read fewer books in 2017, but in 2017 I read 108 books. So that's the exact opposite of what I set out to do. And to be honest, I really did wish that I had slowed down, because much as I loved so many of the books that I read, I did find that by the end of the year, in December I barely read at all because I had just drained myself from all of that reading, and I didn't do any of that reading out loud that I talked about. So this is a repeat resolution. In 2018, I really would like to read fewer books. I really would like to read more slowly and read aloud to myself and scribble in the margins and just really slow it down and remind myself how wonderful reading is and why I fell in love with it in the first place.
Resolution number 5 is to read some books in translation. I think it's really, really fascinating how differently speaking a different language can cause you to see the world. Actually does change the way that you form your view of the world. While ideally I'd be able to speak some different languages and actually read them in their native tongue, I think second best is to read some books that were written by someone with a different perspective of the world.
Okay, yes, I did read quite a few books in translation this year. I did find something new and fascinating about each of them, whether it is as simple as just a slightly different writing style, or if there's something more, if you think there's actually some different worldview coming through in them. I just found that an interesting experience, and I definitely want to keep going with that one. So I'm pleased with what I did there, but I think I could have done even better, so I'm going to aim to do even more next year.
And then finally, my resolution number 6, which I am terrible at, is I'm actually going to read my own books. I currently have 70 unread books on my shelf. That's not the worst I've ever heard, but it's the worst it's ever been for me. I'm not going to set any specific goals. I tried doing Project 5 last year, where you have to read 5 before buying one, but I failed miserably. So I'm not going to set any specific rule that I'll just break. I'm just going to try and be more mindful and make an effort to actually read the books I already own and bought and are sitting there waiting for me. So every time I get all excited about a new book and I'm getting there ready to buy it online or whatever, I'm just going to stop, take a second, walk to my shelf, see if there isn't something just as exciting waiting for me on my shelf.
That's such a good idea, Emma. I forgot that I said that as well. I did okay at reading my own books, maybe. I should have made some stats on this before. Why didn't I make any stats on this? Why am I like this? I did introduce balancing the books midway through the year, which means that I do now have fewer books on my TBR than I did at the beginning of the year, which is great. I mean, that's actually a total lie, because in December and for Christmas I got more books. But before Christmas I had managed to cut that number down. Now it's way back up, but we'll fix that later, cross that bridge when we come to it. But while my overall TBR might only have gone down a little bit, I did actually do well on this resolution, because you just heard me say that I owned 70 books at the start of 2017, and of those books I now only own 33. So I did read more than half of the books I owned at the time I made that resolution. It's just that I kept buying way more and getting sent way more. If you don't count everything that I just got for Christmas, I'm now on about 67 books. So my resolution for 2018 is this £2,000, is that I will get rid of all 67 of the books I previously owned before the end of the year. That's going to really go against the resolution to not read so many books. Let's say I want to improve on my resolution, so I'm going to more than halve that number by the end of 2018. That's more doable. So those are my 2017 reading resolutions, and now I'm going to run through the 2018 reading resolutions that I wrote down yesterday on my journey home. Some of them I will have already mentioned. My resolution number 1 is I want to read fewer books. I've already talked about this one at great length, but I really do want to slow my reading down. Resolution number 2 is I'm going to keep going with my Balancing the Book series, but this time I'm going to step it up a notch, make it a little bit harder, and my score has to go down by 2 every month, not just by 1 every month. Resolution number 3 is to complete my Get a Hold of Your Shelf reading challenge. I started this in February 2017 and only got through 3 of the challenges by the end of the year, so I'm going to finish it by the end of 2018. Resolution number 4 is that I'm going to reread some books. I barely ever reread books, but it means that I was looking at my shelf the other day and I've got so many on there that I just adored, and I'm never really giving myself the time to go back and rediscover them. So I don't have any particular number in mind, but I am going to give myself time every few months to go back and reread an old favourite. And finally, resolution number 5 is that I'm going to try and do some writing this year. When I was younger, I always wanted to be a writer. It was like my biggest dream to be an author, and now I never do any creative writing. It might be partly because for the last few years I was doing a lot of freelance writing for work, which kind of made writing feel like work, so I never wanted to do it in my free time. But now that I'm not doing that anymore, I do always have all these ideas in my head of books that I would love to write about. So I'm just going to set myself the resolution of finding a little bit of time every now and then to re-explore creative writing and what I liked about it, and maybe by the time November rolls around I'll be feeling in a NaNoWriMo kind of place. But probably not. We'll see. So here's hoping we have a better 2018 than 2017 was. And do leave me a comment below letting me know what your New Year's resolutions are, whether they're book related or not. I love to hear about what you've got planned for the new year. And of course, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, and hit that subscribe button for new videos every Friday. See you next time!